Well, welcome to the Duran Records podcast. I'm Devin Goff, and this is the CEO.
D. Duran Goff.
Okay, well, they want to know your name.
All right.
This is going to be a series of podcasts where we will kind of dive into the history as well as kind of talk about the future of all things Duran Entertainment. And this is going to be a special one today. Because we're focusing on one of the artists from back in the day that was very near and dear to my heart for a plethora of reasons. We're talking about the
Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. So, before we get into that, and I'm telling you, you want to tune into this because we're going to be actually talking about some never told before stories. We're going to be listening to some unreleased music. You know, there was a whole album.
That's right.
That was cut and never released.
After the first two.
The
Get to the Concept.
Get to the Concept.
Which was released in 99, 2000.
Oh, no. Oh boy, that's a good question. We got to run. The history on that.
Yeah, and then.
But I think you're right. 99, 2000. I think you're right.
Then Patriotically Yours.
Yeah.
The short EP, and then this project that we're going to be talking about today, the University of Gospel.
University of Gospel. We spent about 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years working on that project, and it was never released. But today on the Duran Records podcast, we're actually going to release that, and not release it, but let you all hear it. And some of the stuff we haven't heard in years, so you're going to get live reactions of the music and even the times in that time.
And of course, this whole podcast is in celebration of the 50th anniversary.
This episode is definitely in celebration of the 50th year anniversary of the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. Man, I remember, my interaction with the choir started when I was a kid. Our oldest brother, Damon, I remember Damon taking me to Northland Mall. And it was, I think, in the month of February because there was a program going on, and the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir was performing at Northland Mall.
Wow!
That was when I first experienced the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir, and they left such an indelible mark. And so when I made my choice to come to Eastern, who am I kidding? They were the only one who would take me. And they took me by way of a favor of my now brother-in-law, Lawrence Abner, who actually talked to the dean of student, the vice president of student affairs, and got me in on probation.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
He got me in on probation,
Wow.
and I had to maintain a certain GPA for the first semester if I were to continue on at EMU. I got into Wayne State on like another program too, but I didn't want to go to Wayne State because I always wanted to go away to school.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that, but we're not talking about that. But when I got to Eastern, I was actually pursuing drama. And I went into, I auditioned for Guys and Dolls, and I got the part, went to the first rehearsal. I saw what was going on in that rehearsal. I won't even go into all the details there. But I said, this is not for me. I walked out of that rehearsal, and the director, he was like, if you leave here, you'll be in breach of contract, and you won't be able to perform for anything in the next 3 semesters. I said, I'll take my chances. I left out of there. I saw one of those light poles with the phone, and it had a flyer on it. It said, wow. Do you love God, and do you like to sing? And those checked both of the boxes for me. Come and join the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir meeting this Thursday.
Wow.
And the rest was history. So let's talk a little bit before we get into EMU or EMGC. Talk about Duran Records. Where are things with Duran Records? How is Duran Records going? What's going on with Duran Records?
Everything's good. Right now, of course, if content is king in this media world, then frequency has to be king. It has to be queen. So we have to. We're just in preparation mode for everything. Of course, we have the gift of Deshandra
Yeah.
on our label as well. And of course, if you got one label going, we're in the process of launching another label as well.
You
So
know,
for
if
talent.
if you haven't done yourself a favor and listened to Deshandra's EP,
Yes.
man, the body of work that you and Anisha
Anisha
Burchett,
Burchett, yes.
Moody,
Yep. Yep.
did on that along with Deshandra was absolutely incredible. Both that studio version and then the live version.
Yes.
Man, just Kirk Franklin, Marvin Winans. I mean, all these big names that, I mean, my dad would have just been like a kid in the candy store to see, man, Duran Records has Kirk Franklin on a record.
Yes.
That's pretty big.
Pretty huge. You know,
Pretty huge.
and
Marvin Winans
Marvin Winans
featured on a
the
record. That's pretty huge.
You know, and my dad set a firm foundation for us. Of course, if many people probably wouldn't even know this, but his claim to fame during his time in the regime of Duran Records was back in 2003, where we actually were named top 5 record label in the entire world, according to Billboard magazine.
I remember that.
So during that time, it was just all of this conglomerate of occupying the Billboard charts, and just really from that little place on 6 Mile,
Oh man,
the studio,
don't even start.
was literally where a lot of the work and the magic was actually taking place, and God allowed us to impact the entire world. And according to his words, David L. Goff, he said this was the greatest time in the history of Duran Records and Duran Entertainment, and it was because of the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
Did y'all hear that? Now, let's talk about the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
Yeah.
When I got to Eastern, there was a lady who became my mother and mentor while on campus, Staffy Butler.
Yeah.
This woman was absolutely amazing because she was able to transcend generations
Yeah.
and still be relevant no matter what the generation was. Now, she came to the choir, I think, in the early 80s. Ended up taking over the choir after Marvin Miller left, who was a great leader of the choir. But when Staffy came and took over, and so by 97, when I finally got there, she had been there over 10 years, almost 20 years.
Wow.
And when I got there, she said, well, now I can leave. You know, I don't know. So I ended up becoming the president of the choir the very next year in 1998. Had a great mentor, Tanya and Liz. Tanya was the president, Liz was the vice president. I remember it just like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Tanya was the president, Liz was the vice president, Staffy was the directress, and then they welcomed me in. And with my business background, administrative background, I began to kind of see areas in which we could grow the choir. And then that second semester of my second year, my sophomore year, that's when you came.
That's right.
That's when Duran came. He transferred from U of M Dearborn.
Yeah.
You were doing music at U of M Dearborn. And then you came to the choir.
Yeah. And just like you said, you see, this is all literally stemming once again from our dad, right? So on the business admin side, and here I come with all the musical ideas and how to be able to expand the sound of the choir as well as the presentations of the choir, which of course we'll be digging into.
We're going to dig into that. So
because it got controversial.
Because it got very controversial. I mean, because that expansion of the presentation of what the choir was doing wasn't always welcomed by people that were there. But we'll get into that in just a moment. Man, I mean, when I think back to those moments, as we began to really, I mean, you know, and God's hand has always been on the choir.
Yes,
without a doubt. That was the whole thing that attracted, you know, our father David Goff to the choir. He came to an anniversary concert. I think it was the 25th. It was a 25th year anniversary concert. He came there. It was at Christian Love right there in Ipsy. And when he came there, he saw it, and he was just the energy, the excitement of 50 to 75 young people passionately in love with God, singing about Jesus. He had never seen anything like that before. I had never experienced, and I was in it, never experienced anything like that before. And that led him to want to have conversations with staff. I remember the call he gave me. He was like, "Hey man, what's the choir doing? You think they want to sign with Duran Records?" I said, "Wait a minute. I'm trying to just go to school. I want to keep, the family business and what's going on." But it became a thing that I could not deny because I knew what his ability was and what he could bring to the choir. And I said, you know what, maybe we need to give this some serious thought. Introduce him to Staffy, and then things just kind of begin to steamroll. But let's talk about again, God's hand has always been on the choir, but taking this thing to the next level.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about how the exposure of the choir began to just broaden. The choir was always touring, it was always traveling, always doing that. But the exposure became next level when we began to implement different things that began to change a little bit of the direction of the choir. Talk about that.
So we have, when we're talking about this aspect, we have to talk about my connection during this time when you were at Eastern and I was transitioning to Eastern. While I was in the transition, I had the chance to meet.
You left.
Left where?
To go on tour.
Well, this was before that.
Okay.
This was before that. This was my connection with Valdez Brantley.
Okay.
And Kern Brantley.
Yeah.
They were introduced into my lives during that period. So during this time, I would go to school, and then I would sometimes not even skip classes just to go to their house, to go to Valdez's house. And this was during the time where I was really exposed to how things were operating on the road aspect as far as pre-production was concerned. Me being exposed to the likes of Valdez working on a show for Usher or working on a show for Mary J. Blige. Literally, it was just right there before my very eyes, and being able to see exactly how to put shows together.
Yeah. So
the crazy thing was, I was learning this, and then I would go back and exercise it on the choir.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the introduction. Was almost like, okay, I'm getting fresh knowledge. Now let me implement it where I'm already at.
On this platform.
On this platform that
called Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
Yeah. And it ended up being an inspiration because the more excited I was doing that for them, we started seeing inspiration come from the likes of all these names that Ryan Baker.
This is where, for me, this is where the story becomes very special.
Yeah.
Because, yes, Martha started, Chucky held it down, Chucky Alexander, the bishop, God bless him. Marvin Miller came and held it down for a period of time. Staffy probably had the longest tenure of any leader, director, or directress of the choir, 20 years. Then I had a stint.
Yeah.
And then there were others, after me but even though there were those leaders and those after me, like, Ashley, Russell, different ones that, had a hand in keeping the choir going, even though there were people that led, they were the out front, as Granddaddy used to say, out front, on top, and in charge people. It could not have happened. It could not have been sustained without the people.
That's right.
I'm talking about the sopranos, the altos, and the tenors, and the talent that lived inside those vessels in the soprano section, the alto section, and the tenor section. Because when we began talking about these people, and I know there were, when I came, I probably would not have stuck, as Staffy would say, stick and stay. I probably would not have sticked and stayed if it were not for Chop, Donnell,
Yes, sir.
June,
Yes.
Marlon McKinney,
Yes.
Brandon Darrow, Dorian Richardson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about, and that was just the tenor section.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know, we love the altos and the sopranos.
You can't forget about Jared. Jared.
Well, he came later. I'm talking about
That's
when
right.
I was
That's right.
there, when I first got there. Pedro came later.
Yeah.
Deacon Fry, Pedro
Deacon
Fry. But yeah, I mean, like those moments, those people
Yes.
who never had a title,
Yeah.
never had leadership position.
Yeah.
But I mean, when they were there, you knew everything was going to be all right.
That's right.
And as time progressed, that continued to be a thing. So when you talk about the Ryan Bakers of the world,
Yes.
when you talk about Demila Prince,
Absolutely.
when you talk about my vice president, Bill Collins,
Yes.
and you know his wife, Novelette,
Yes.
Joy Madden,
Yeah.
and the late, great Janika Brickerson.
Yes.
Man, the list can go on and on. I mean, you know, Shaquan Anderson, who came later, and
DeAndre Chapman.
let's not. Okay, so why did you?
You referring names, so I'm just calling it out. Like
Can't
these
you
were
get it?
staples.
You're absolutely right.
These were staples.
Well, actually, both the D's.
Dark skin and light skin D.
You
Dark
know,
D, light D.
I don't know if we were politically correct back then, or if we would get in trouble if we were doing that today. But yeah, light skin D, dark skin D, Demila. Man, who else? So many people.
Tiffany. Tiffany.
Tiffany.
McKinney, of course.
Yeah, who married Marlon.
Marlon.
Our late dear brother, Stephen Fowler, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. LaDonna North. Oh, I cannot forget about Diana Patrick.
Yes, very important.
She was very instrumental on so many levels with the development, growth, and maturing of the choir. But I say that to say this, to go back to your point. It's because of the people.
Yeah.
Thank God for all the leaders down through the years. I mean, but Staffy wouldn't have been what she was if it wasn't for Sherry.
Absolutely.
Marvin probably wouldn't have been what he was if it wasn't for Judy. Like,
Yeah,
you know, and other ones. I can hear names in my head. Last name Glover. We talked about Urena Ricks, you know, her and Liz. I mean, like those are some strong spiritual,
Absolutely.
know, rocks, pillars within the church. So again, Granddad would always say, yeah, the Bible says without a vision, the people perish, but without people, the vision perishes. Yeah. And so these are people that actually gave life to the vision.
Yeah.
And in this 50th year moment, as we're talking about it, I think they deserve to be celebrated.
All the way. And
even when I look further, even beyond when I first got there, you're talking about Marlon Hines, Camille, Jamal, Jabari, Russell,
Tia.
Tabitha. Oh my goodness. With Tia, Wendy, and that whole crew, man, Eli, Crystal,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tiffany Rowan.
Jana.
Listen,
Mason.
okay, we can shut it down right now.
And the thing about it, what I love, what you're saying.
Sasha, Chris Williams.
Yes.
Oh, and how can we forget Charnel?
Oh my goodness.
Staple.
Yeah.
I'm probably forgetting names, so please charge it in my head, but not my heart. But I'm saying because without the people, we would not be here to celebrate 50 years of the gospel choir.
And I think along with that, the people being able to give them a chance to exercise their gifts.
That's what it was.
And it's through the gifts that they became leaders. Like I always tell people all the time, we learned this from the late great Dr. Miles Monroe, your gift is what solidifies your leadership because you use your gift as inspiration. And true inspiration is the actual prerequisite for true leadership. So when you're exercising your gift, you're inspiring and people are prone to follow you. True leadership is not through dictatorship; it's through inspiration.
That's right.
So that was the beauty of what I believe expanded the growth. Of course, God had given you the vision to expand EMGC Ministries, and you had all of these different outlets for gifts to be expounded.
There was not a day that was not touched by the ministry. As we began to grow and expand. As you said, we went from EMGC, Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir, to EMGC Ministries.
Yes.
And I think our tagline at the time was not just a choir anymore.
Yeah,
I remember the red
yeah,
shirts.
Yeah.
Not just a choir anymore. Man, when I think about that time, I mean, we had what was known as CAS, Christian Academic Study Session.
Yeah.
That was Monday nights. Tuesday nights was our Image of Christ Bible study.
Yes.
Which started as a prayer meeting in our apartment during the summertime. And then my good friend and brother Eddie Miles taught many weeks, and it just impacted us, from that aspect. So that was Tuesday. Then DOD and ROC, Dancers of David and Reflections of Christ drama team, they would have their rehearsals at times on Wednesdays. Then the choir rehearsal always occupied Thursday nights.
Right in King Hall.
Right in King Hall. And then you always had gigs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, I mean, like, we created this community of students, people that had the same interests, people that loved God, that were passionately committed to following Him. Not perfect, but, moving toward that progressive state of a mature relationship in Jesus Christ. Those were the things that, I mean, it created such a bond that I just remember those years as being some of the most formidable years of my life. And I mean, names are still coming to me. Katie Scholar, Andrew Monroe, Robert Smith. See, I got Mara Roshan. See, these were all of the, let's just be honest, gospel choir. Largely black folk. But when the white people came in, you remembered them.
That's right.
You remembered them. And so, man, my mind is
Angie Tejeda.
Oh, my goodness. Angie. Man, and Jessica Norwood.
Yes.
I mean, these are people that are doing amazing things in the business sector now. Again, part of the choir.
Yes.
Shamika.
Nina Westbrook. You got Kristen was in, your sister-in-law was in it for a stint. And this is just so crazy. I think what tends to happen is we tend to forget that gifts begets gifts and people begets people. And these people were so excited about what we were doing that it seemed like the choir was added to daily.
You know what? You're right. Really that was like an Acts 2 moment.
Oh man, it was crazy. It was explosive. Like, who are you? Where y'all come from? It's like, oh, we heard y'all at the Martin Luther King, and we just wanted to sign up and see. And so that kind of thing was happening on campus. And then we started implementing the show. Now
we have to, kind of slow this down because, we took a lot of flack. We took a lot of flack because, number one, because of its name. So when we recorded the Get to the Concept album, the album was done. Then we wanted to begin to creatively express and display the songs from the album. So you began, again, going back to your connection with Valdez and Kern and what they taught you to kind of do and put together from a pre-production standpoint, pulling together these shows. You put together a 10-minute kind of showcase of some of the top songs from that Get to the Concept album. Three of the songs
from the album.
So yes, looking back in hindsight, we probably could have named it something a little bit better, but that's what it was. It was a show, and so because that's when we started saying, all right, we're getting ready to teach choreography for the show.
And myself and Ryan would get together. Ryan Baker would actually start to materialize a lot of ideas, and he would turn to the likes of Demila Prince and just different dancers that his network of dancers he would connect to start coming up with, because we would be at the studio sometimes, once again, even missing class, staying at the studio.
If you didn't know, the choir was our major.
It really was.
School was our minor. Now that was not the right motto. I don't encourage that. I do not encourage that. Give me my camera. I do not encourage that. But when you think about it, we lived, ate, and breathed
Absolutely.
this thing.
Absolutely. Well, and really, to tell you the truth, you may not encourage it, but I do, because it's set me up for the course for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
so was everybody else that was involved. It was like we got bit with this thing, and it became more and more real that it became a thing of its own.
So you're like, hey, we got the show together, Staffy. And so when people started hearing this terminology, they was like, show. This is ministry. Huh? No, this is ministry.
Oh,
and
my God.
I ain't talking about externally.
No,
internally. We got ridiculed.
Yeah.
People thought that we were coming in and taking over the choir and taking the choir into a direction that, was never intended to be.
But by the grace of God,
Yeah.
by the grace of God, those naysayers even within our choir and within the ministry, they started to see a different light when they started seeing the reaction as these presentations were being done at Bayless Cathedral.
Yeah.
Bobby Jones' gospel show.
Listen.
And right there in Las Vegas when it was being cut.
And even on campus.
Even on campus itself.
And the way that presentation of the gospel message, the message never changed.
The message never changed.
Come on, Christ in everything.
That's right.
Christ in everything you say and do. That was our way of saying only what you do for Christ will last.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
if you miss me,
from
singing down here,
the message was always intact, and that was the thing that I later came to understand. My spiritual father, he taught me this. He was like, when people are fishing, we are called to be fishers of men.
Yeah.
When people are fishing, they have a hook, and they put bait on the hook. You cast that out because different bait attracts different kind of fish.
Yes.
But as long as the hook, that J hook, that J stands for Jesus, as long as that J hook stays intact, whatever kind of bait you put on, as long as it's not sin, it's fair game, because it's going to attract and appeal to different people.
That's right.
The moment you start changing that J, the moment you start bending that hook out of context or character, and it's no longer Jesus, then you got a problem. But we kept the J intact. The message was there. It was God's amazing grace.
Yes.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I'll rejoice therein. Yeah. The core message of Jesus Christ was the same, but the bait on the hook.
Yeah.
The bait on the hook, the pre-production of the sound,
yes.
Having the vocals there to support. Let's go ahead and, this is a podcast, we might as well go ahead and put it on other.
Absolutely.
Having the vocals there to support. Why? Because we're doing all this movement. We want to make sure that the message, but see, these are all things, and the Bible says this too, that the world is more wiser than us. And so these are all things that Janet Jackson,
absolutely.
Britney Spears,
Absolutely.
all of these acts that were hot at our time, this is what they were doing.
I like what Kern Brantley always says. He says, if you go to a show, first of all, if you go pay your ticket to see a Live Nation show, understand this: ain't nothing ever live. So just get that under your belt. Like, nothing is ever live. Like, there was some pre-production that was done.
Yeah.
If you hear a big orchestra, trust me, it was a big orchestra that was recorded. If you hear vocals, whatever, and there's only 3 background singers that sounds big, trust me, it was pre-recorded. And so that is to make sure that some guarantees are in place. And so all we did was just follow suit and making sure that the gospel message was actually represented.
So you had the sound, Duran was coming into places, New Jerusalem for they MLK Midnight Musical. I remember Doris Scott, Reverend Mother was up there, and here come Duran and the crew with these big Mackie speakers, trucking down the center aisle. Lord have mercy. Reverend London, so sorry. I apologize. Reverend Mother, we apologize. But coming down with them big Mackie speakers, setting up shop because we was getting ready to give it and every single time.
There was always an anticipation when these moments were happening, from whether it was from different college nights, from
Yeah.
other,
Oh, well,
other colleges or whatever. Of course, the band musician
Listen,
circle, they were always waiting.
All
to
the other
have-
college choirs hated us.
They really did. Let's just put it out there.
Let's go ahead and put it out there.
Eastern
They
was known
hated
as
us.
the party school.
Yeah, and so we brought party to the gospel choir scene.
Yeah, yeah.
They hated us.
Yes.
They, it came out later. We're dear friends of ours. They're actually members of our church. They was like, y'all thought y'all was all that. I mean, like, it started coming all out. It just started coming out. But I mean, like, so the sound was there. The movements and the choreography. Eastern was always a hype moving choir. I mean,
Yes.
like, we was, but I mean, now it was precision.
Yeah.
Ryan and Demila was, I mean, like, we was pop, pop. I mean,
Yes.
like, just, I mean, these were just things that started coming in. And so what a lot of people, I mean, again, we heard it time and time again, but people just didn't know was people was watching.
Yes. That.
So much so, and you talked about Bailey Cathedral. I remember the night
Yeah.
when evangelist Dorinda Clark Cole, we got invited to Bailey Cathedral to sing for one of their Blaze Conference or Fire Nights or whatever it was. And we went there. Now, mind you, there was always a little bit of a trepidation or hesitation, if you will. Going into different environments. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Are we going to do,
So play it safe and stay traditional and
raw praise?
raw praise. Staffy would name it raw praise. Like, cut the music.
Cut the music, raw praise. Or were we going to do the show? And people hated that term. But it was like, and we made tough decisions because, again, we understood who we were called to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there were young people in that audience that were going to look at us. But not only did we catch the eyes of young people, but it was that night when we did the show that evangelist Dorinda Clark Cole was there, and she had just done her live recording for her breakout album, and she saw us and said, "I've got to have y'all."
I never will forget it. She's talking to you. She's talking to Ryan, and I'm back in the back just wrapping up stuff and
getting all the chords together, all the equipment that he brought in for this Friday night service. It wasn't a concert.
Yeah.
There was a preacher there.
Yeah, it really was.
But we took in gear. We took in racks of gear.
Yeah. And even at the expense of people already having sound system, we just wanted to make sure that our sound was understood and perceived in a certain way. And Dorinda was just mind blown. And she says, whatever you guys are doing, I want y'all to do that for me. And literally, that's how our connection with, and she just celebrated, I believe, 20 years on
20 years of that initial
recording.
Which we were not, give me my camera, which we were not a part of. Now, Evangelist Cole, I'm talking to you right now. I know you're going to see this. Somebody going to show it to you. You know you could have called us. We would have rallied the troops. We would have pulled the band back together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she said, no, I'm just, that's neither here nor there. We had our moment.
Yeah, she's family. She's family.
That is my girl. I mean, no disrespect, but she knows she's been here to preach for me.
Yeah.
She preached at our 35th anniversary.
Yeah,
no, she came and sang. She came and sang.
Yeah.
The late great Dr. Charles Hawthorne, my mentor, who was a spiritual leader of the choir for many years, who passed away recently. He preached at the 35th celebration. But that was where Dorinda saw us and was like, and then that became another, because of the unique presentation of what God had given to you and other members of the choir.
Yeah.
Ryan, Demi, I mean, man, I tell you, it's just amazing.
Here's the I think the truth of the matter to what we were doing, just wanting to really take the realm of what was happening on campus and happening with us as a ministry, just to make sure that it was going to the next level.
And broadcast to the world.
Other people were, because we were through Duran Records being exposed on Word Network.
Oh, listen. Well, see, when we did the live DVD.
Yes.
And when they saw that massive group of young people on that big old stage in Pease Auditorium.
Yeah.
And we did the
full show, like multiple songs that just never stopped. I think it was around,
and then the dancers came out at the end
doing the dance break. Yeah.
I mean, it was insane. But again, it was the people.
Yeah, the people.
I mean, they were inspired and they bought in.
And because of their buy-in, because of their commitment.
Let's go ahead and tell the full story because a lot of people don't know this. Because of that live recording that was then broadcast all over the world, Bobby Jones Gospel at the time, the Word Network, TCT, which is the second largest Christian broadcast network at the time, that video was shown all over the world.
Yeah.
There was a certain somebody who came back and said, if it wasn't for y'all doing what y'all did, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Of course, we know him today as
Ty Tribbett.
Ty
Tribbett and GA. This is factual.
Absolutely.
Approached us and said, no, as a matter of fact, he saw Ryan. Because of Ryan's big hair.
And by this time, he was already traveling. He had made his transition traveling with Dorinda Clark.
That's right.
So he saw him.
He was like, man, I know you from somewhere. He was like, well, I've traveled with Dorinda. And he said, no, I know you from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And he remembered Ryan, because Ryan was right there on the front row. It was me, Ryan, I think Bill was right there. And he remembered Ryan being in the choir.
Yes.
Because he saw, he was like, man, if it was y'all doing what y'all did, then I'm doing what I'm doing today.
You gotta be willing to have faith to do things that maybe go against the grain.
And that have never been done before.
Let's just call it what it is. I mean, but one gift inspires another. Yeah. If I wasn't connected at that time with Valdez Brantley, and he didn't get inspired by them, coming back, providing inspiration, and then that inspiration just like, oh, I know what we can do this. It started providing jobs.
Well, I mean, both on the musical creative side, but then also
on the admin side too.
On the business administrative side.
Absolutely.
I mean, and Staffy knows this. I love her. But Staffy this is how we kept dates in terms of our calendar for the choir when I first came to the choir. Staffy had them little pocket calendars and a red pen. And when somebody would approach and say, can the choir come? She was like, yeah. She would write the date down in her little pocket calendar. We would get the information on Thursday night at rehearsal that this is where we got to be on Friday. Now, there was nothing wrong with that for that era because there was people that it's just what we did, like spontaneous, just get up and go. Well, as this new generation, my generation and later started coming in, they're like, hey, well, we love the choir, but this Kappa party that I'd already planned to go to, it's happening. And it didn't mean that they weren't saved. It just meant that they just wanted some heads up in terms. So we began to bring some administrative structure.
Yeah.
Booking forms were created. I mean, I remember me and Diana, we would stay up late retooling the booking form.
Yes.
And so our finances got better. Just from a business standpoint, administratively, how we were being booked, how travel was being covered because of the contract things that we were putting in.
Yeah.
I mean, all these different things that were happening, not just for the choir, but for the dance team, for the drama team.
And then you throw in the addition of Dorinda Clark Cole's schedule.
Yeah.
In there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it had to have been well organized and a well-oiled machine because, and then what a lot of people don't know, so Eastern had its dates going. Then there were things that we were obligated because we committed to do things with Dorinda. But then I remember Dr. Miles and Rosas.
Yeah.
And this was a tough one because a lot of people don't know this. When he invited us, the choir to come down to the Bahamas.
Absolutely.
But because of what we were committed to, now mind you, we were already at that point a little fractured because, though Dorinda loved the whole choir, Gospel Centric, her label at the time, was not going to pay for the whole choir to travel with her. So we had to scale it down. We had to pare it down. And so, of course, going through the whole run of how do you pare down, 50, 60 people to 15, to 18, maybe 20 on a good gig. That was tough. And so now you have, doing that, and then he was like, well, I can't fly the whole choir, but can we get a... So it was just like, you had to just make a decision,
Yeah.
of things that we could do for the sake of keeping the choir together, because people was like, how come I can't be with Dorinda? I want to go with, it was a whole lot. But I mean, it was good, but it was things that you would have to think about. But if you did not have a solid structure of administration and being very clear on the vision and the mission of the ministry, you'll be chasing after and doing anything.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that because we were very clear on what God called us to do.
Absolutely. And I think there literally during that time, there was a certain maturity that needed to take place too. So I'll even speak on my behalf. I'll never forget when there was a clash, and this is actually a good moment for me to be able of years to be able to kind of bring this up. Everybody knows the famous gospel producer, Alex Ward.
Oh boy.
And he was actually during this time, of course, I think he had already been doing some production, but Dorinda, Clark Cole really started his ascension in the gospel music industry for sure. And so obviously when I'm being brought in to work with another producer that I didn't even know existed, I was young. I would admit, a rebel and immature. Let's call it, because I saw things that need to be done a certain way, and not really understanding that there was a pecking order. And so, but I'll be here the first to say it, or what have you. Of course, we haven't seen each other since that time, over 20 years. But Asaph Ward, I apologize to you because of the things that had took place. We don't have to get into detail, but I respect you. It seemed like our careers have panned out very well, and I respect the God in you and everything that has panned out so well for you. But I just want to take this time to say I apologize to you and to Dorinda and the entire team during that time, because...
Oh man, listen, you ain't got to go to it, but I will. I remember, there was a meeting in Indianapolis.
Yes, yeah.
We were there in Indianapolis, and Kiki,
my sister,
I love Kiki, but she came after you.
Yeah.
She came after you in that room.
And she let it be known, Duran, actually, my mother brought you to Dorinda, saying, it's because of my mother saying, Dorinda, you need to be working with Duran. So please understand, there's multiple relationships that you're impacting here. Yeah. And I heard her loud and clear. She was barely 15 years old.
But so mature.
But very mature, wise beyond her years. And so I remember all of that. Yeah. I remember all of that. And these are our family to this very day. But I just wanted to be able to kind of use this time on international presidents to be able to right some wrongs. And I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So we did get to the concept.
Yeah.
We did Patriotically Yours. 3 songs, three covers, and then one original. Penned by the amazing, incomparable.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him, man. For every Timberland and Missy Elliott and the Basement Crew, you have a Static, which was a songwriter, and that, of course, passed on. He did a lot of songs with Aaliyah, and then for every Rodney Jerkins, you have a LaShawn Daniels, or what have you, who's also passed on as well. This guy, Marlon McKinney, though, for those of you who don't know, was
Tin Man,
what we used to call him. He was an amazing songwriter. He was the one that was the go-to for Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. If there was 10 songs, he was going to pen about 4 or 5 of them.
Yep.
And so you talk about Christ and Everything, Celebrate, Get to the Concept. Celebrate, and If You Miss Me Down Here. Nothing Between My Soul and Thee, And of course, United We Stand on the Patriotic Yours, and some of the ones that we'll be getting into on the Unreleased. This man just was not just a solid talent, phenomenal writer, but a phenomenal, even greater person and phenomenal friend. And I just, he would come down to the studio just almost, if I was there 5 days out the week, he would come down at least 3 to 4. And just to see what was going on sonically, to see how he could be able to contribute. And he always had a great idea that God would give him from a lyrical standpoint and melodic standpoint that just set us and gave us a firm foundation for us to be able to kind of take that next level. So I wanted to make sure that on this show, as we're talking about just a great guy. And I really love this guy, man, with all my heart. And we've had many of laughs, many of talks. And you talk about him, you talk about Ryan. Once again, getting back to the people. These were just solid people that made, not only at Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir, but even at Duran Records, it made my dad just want to go and do more. And so we honor these people today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never will forget that early morning call from Tiffany in June of 2017. She called me and said, what you doing? I said, just kind of getting up, You sitting down? I said, yeah. And then she told me. And I tell you, man, I was in a state of unbelief. Especially because, my dad, our dad, he was in the hospital at the time. He had a massive heart attack and stroke in December, and he was gone, but the Lord gave him back to us. And he was still going in and out the hospital in our rehab centers, so he was still kind of down. And for me to get that news about Marlon, it just rocked me, just rocked us. Man, we miss him so much, and his work will never be forgotten. And you see it, you will hear it, even on some of this stuff. Now, some of you all were a part of the University of Gospel project.
This is album number 3.
Album number 3.
Yeah.
Project number 4 when you talk about the DVD, the live
Yes,
recording.
yes.
So you had Get to the Concept. You had the Patriotically Yours. Then we came back and did the live DVD.
Yes.
Of songs from the Get to the Concept album. Before we go to University of Gospel, I just feel like we have to talk about the musicianship.
Oh my God.
Of the choir.
Yeah.
Because let's just be honest, we were only going to go so far with On Christ the Solid Rock We Stand in the key of C. We're only going to go so far with
which was actually really in the key of A flat. She will always say start C, but it was actually y'all would literally be in the key of A flat.
See, I didn't know that.
It's all a science. It's cool.
The musicians.
Yeah.
When I got to the choir, Futch, Fernando, and Barry
Andrews. Yeah.
That was our 3-piece that Staffy was rocking with, that we rocked with. And I'm telling you, there were moments, and I'm just telling you, to just talk about how God's hand was upon. There were moments when we were on tour, it was like time stood still.
Mm.
I mean, really, like the presence of God would come in so thick because of the minstrels that we had that were a part of the choir. Now, I know there were others that predate me. Tim Clark and Gary Ward and
Derek Starks.
Derek Starks,
actually.
Larry Tucker.
Yeah.
So many other names that are probably just leaving me right now. Antoine Foster.
Yes.
All musicians of the choir down through the years. And then when you came, a year after that was this young, fiery drummer, Eli Harrell.
The third.
The third.
The third.
He showed up on the first day of rehearsal with his own drum set. Now, who does that?
Well, let's tell the story behind that too. Reggie McTaw, the famous guitar player out of Detroit, who's going on. Before Eli even got there,
that's right.
I'm at the studio. He comes to the studio. He says, "Now look, my little cousin."
Reggie did, yeah.
Reggie says, "My little cousin is coming to be with y'all at Easter. Take care. Look out for him. Take care of him. I'm telling you, he's one of them." and so I never will forget. I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He's like, "What's his name?" His name is Elijah. His name is Elijah. And the like you said, the first rehearsal.
No, we'd already had a drummer.
we did. That's what I was getting ready to.
Fernando was the choir's drummer.
Absolutely.
But Eli, he just wanted to play.
Yeah.
And had saw Eastern as a kid, just like me, as a young kid, and said that's where I want to go. That's what I want to do. I want to play for that choir.
Absolutely.
And he came ready.
And we were at Jones Memorial Church of God in Christ at the gig. After his first rehearsal, he comes and, let's just call it what it is. I mean, if a musician has been there, he's going to play the majority of stuff of the songs. But then they ended up giving him a chance to play He's a Keeper and God of Mercy, I think. And I will never forget, Eli took his solo and wore them drums out to the point to where this one right here, Devin, ends up throwing a towel at Eli.
I remember that.
And it was like, "You're a drummer." It became a thing, and Eli got anointed that day
with the towel.
And just like you said, to your point, Stephen Fowler.
I was getting ready to go. I mean, Eli and Steve, like y'all
They came in together.
And so he was secondary keys. You then went key bass or auxiliaries.
He was main keys. We made him main keys.
Yeah. Wonderful touch and amazing singer. Let's talk about that. Let's talk. Well, you're going to hear it in a minute.
Yeah.
Steve just had a tone so rich.
Comes heavy from the school of thought of the Donny Hathaways, the Stevie Wonders, Frank McComb, which is another famous vocalist musician that he really studied.
And y'all became the original three-piece and a biscuit.
Three-piece and a biscuit. Listen, this was the name that we came up with because it was only three of us, but the biscuit was the show that we were playing, the tracks that we were actually pre-produced. And so that was the name, and hey, man, I have no shame about that. I'm glad about that name.
You all laid a foundation because then, when you began traveling on the road, because you went out with several secular acts, 112 on the Whitney Houston tour, Neo, Chris Brown.
Yeah.
So you became very inconsistent. Like you started this thing and then you just left. But then Richard and Romero Williams.
Absolutely.
Josh Mickens, I think, played for us on drums for a season.
And then Chase Dixon.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So like, this next crop, this next crew, Abraham Baker.
Yes.
Abraham Baker. I mean, these musicians. Craig Mizell.
Craig Mizell.
He's an amazing songwriter, producer, record exec here in Detroit.
Absolutely.
Putting the Detroit music scene back on the map, gospel music scene back on the map. They all came and were a part of the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
We actually said this, and I think you and I were having this conversation. I'll never forget. We were at the control. We were in the control room there on 6 Mile in the studio, and we began reflecting on all the talent that has come through our doors as far as this hub called Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. And we literally said this. You said your business mind started working. Says, man, we need to get a house.
Yeah,
we need to get a house because we want to be able to house this talent and be able to inspire on a whole different level after college.
Well, the thing is that the frats had a house.
That's right.
The sororities had a house.
That's right.
Even another Christian organization, Chi Alpha, they had a house
Yeah.
on campus. I felt we should have a house,
Yeah.
you know, so that people could have a hub to come to. You see, you have to remember, and we don't really, I have not done it justice, but you got to remember, even beyond musically, dance, drama, business, there was also this emerging graphic design and marketing ploy.
Absolutely.
Before I even get to Marlon Hines, Dorian Richardson. I remember we had Kirk Franklin come, thanks to Bill. Thanks, Bill. Kirk Franklin came to actually speak on campus.
Yes.
And Dorian did the flyer for it. And I mean, it was like next level, unlike anything we'd ever had or seen before. And he began to offer his gift of graphic design in that way. And then Marlon Hines came along, who wasn't really doing graphics and design work. I kind of pushed him into that vein. And then, as you can see, his business, Siraki, has just taken off. It all started with the work that he was doing with the choir. And I mean, he's doing well. I mean, you've seen Marlon's work all across the world, all across the globe. And again, it was humble beginnings right there with EMGC Ministries. So many others. I mean, man, if I could just slow myself down and really think about it, there are so many people that this ministry has touched and that they've added value to the ministry. That they're doing what they're doing today because of the start that they had.
I think that's the glorious part about this whole entire thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pastoring now. I'm going to tell you. I'm pastoring now. Eli's my executive pastor. Lisa is Lisa Respis at the time. Lisa Respis is my worship pastor. You know, we're all still doing what we started off doing there with Easter.
And that is that once again, it goes back to, that's the glory of this thing. Like, I think God allowed that for that time and that dispensation to happen to see who would have faith, who would have enough faith to get in the trenches. And that's why the relationships still exist to this very day. You know, we can be able to see, we haven't probably seen a lot of these folk over the last 10 or 15 years, you know. But
we pick up right where we left off.
Right where we left off. That's the glorious part. And they're still, a lot of them are still doing what they were doing during that time. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. I really do.
Teachers, pastors, preachers, evangelists, attorneys, doctors, engineers, actors and actresses. I mean, Smokey, Jawan. You know, Jawan Jackson, who was a part of the choir. You know, I call him Smokey. He did some work for me when I began to go into corporate world, but he was on Broadway. With the Temptations, and now is officially a Temptation. He left Broadway, and now he's a part of the historic group, the Temptations.
Let me just take it back even to basics.
Come on.
You were talking about that time of coming into churches with the Big Mackey system, and so we would have the tenors help, and so Jared, we call him Pedro. Pedro would actually not only help, he will organize the people to be able to bring in the sound system. KB.
Christopher Brown. KB. Jabari. Jawan. Jamal. Russell.
And so even today, when you talk about another company of ours, Band J Entertainment, Jared actually now runs the production and management aspect on that end and what have you. So it's just because of his organizational skills and just his leadership. I just feel like Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir it was the perfect harvest field, if you will.
Breeding ground.
All the way. It was the perfect agriculture for whatever it is that you want to do in life. And I want to be able to thank Staffy for allowing us to be able to have the intuition
to flourish in those
absolutely
giftings. You know, the only time she would push back was because of the people that kind of came up with her and what they were saying. But really, Staffy knew. She was like, "No, we need to go this route." And she gave us the bandwidth,
absolutely,
to be able to do and to expand and to go forth I would just never forget her. I will never forget her. I talked to her this morning. I was on the phone with her this morning as we were preparing to celebrate the 50 years. I just love her, and
I do too.
She gave us the ability to do what we did so that we can do what we do, and I appreciate that about her. The University of Gospel, Unreleased. Largely never heard. There may be some songs out there on your YouTube.
Possibly. Yeah. It got leaked.
But a lot that got leaked. Wonder about who. But a lot of people have not heard this stuff since we cut it. And a lot of people haven't even heard it, period. I'm going to start with the song that you say should be number one.
Thank you.
Led by our brother, Steve Fowler. Haven't heard this song in quite some time, but let's listen to it right now. Got Just What I Want.
Talk to Jesus and I got just what I want. I told him all about my troubles and I got just what I want. He heard my faintest cry. I got just what I want. And I'm living in my by and by. Yeah. Got just what I want. I used to feel there was no use in talking to God. 'Cause the harder I pray, the harder things get. Stop living for myself and begin to seek his face. 'Cause I had a little talk with Jesus and I got just what I want. I told him all about my troubles. Got just what I want. He heard my faintest cry. Got just what I want. And I'm living in my by and by. Got just what I want. I had a little talk with Jesus and I got just what I want. I told him all about my trouble. Just what I want. He heard my feelings cry, yeah. Just what I want. And I'm living in my by and by. Just what I want. I used to feel there was no use in talking to God. 'Cause the harder I prayed, the harder things got. I realized I had to turn from my wicked ways, stop living for myself, and begin to seek his face. 'Cause when bills are due, money few, I thank the Lord. Yeah. Just what I want. Thinking no love I find, no peace of mind. Thank the Lord, sure enough got it. Just what I want. He gave it to me. Yeah. He gave it to me. He gave it to me. He gave it to me. I lost my friend. My heart showed me. That's all right. Hey, that's all right. Blessed assurance. Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. I've got it. I've got it, yeah. Yeah. I've got it. Oh. I've got it, yeah. Oh, he gave it to me. Yeah. He gave it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world can give to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world can't take it away. So say yeah. Say I've got it. I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. Oh, yeah.
Stephen Fowler, Cleveland, Ohio's own Stephen Fowler.
Written by Marlon McKinney.
Written by Marlon McKinney.
I
I mean, let's just be honest. Steve could have had 4 or 5. He could have led 4 or 5 songs on this album, and we wanted him to, but we knew that probably wouldn't have been good. And probably had to change the whole thing into Stephen Fowler featuring
Eastern Michigan Gospel.
yeah, like Frankie Beverly featuring Maze or Maze featuring. It was just amazing, like those moments. I remember even in the studio cutting that song.
Yeah.
And Steve had left the choir. He had gone back to Ohio.
Yeah.
Had a baby.
Had a baby. Absolutely.
His first son, Stephen Jr. And so he came back. That's just the thing. It's like the choir has this thing to where, like, well, Staff would always say, once a member, always a member.
Absolutely.
And so even though you may leave, you can always come back and find your niche, find your place. And that was one of the things. And so because he was such an amazing gift, man, we just had to have him on the next project.
Yeah, just remembering the architect of the sound during that time. I was listening to a lot of Prince.
I mean, you hear it.
Well, Lady Cab Driver.
Yeah.
I was listening to a lot of that, and then of course getting with Marlon. Who was penning, literally, when he heard the track, he says, "Oh, I got it. We about to take one of them old school songs and breathe new life into it." And that was the progressiveness of thought process, which of course, when you think about that time, that was just a beautiful time. And sometimes you wonder why things didn't get released, but I'm glad that it was even for just a time as this, because we get a chance to be able to share the story of it.
I'm listening to it. I mean, it still sounds relevant and on point today. Like you do some mastering, lift some levels up, and I mean, it can be released right now.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next song.
Absolutely.
This song, another song penned by Marlon McKinney.
Yeah.
Led by Tiffany Morgan. She didn't come to the choir until, after 04, maybe 05. 04, 05, somewhere around there. But an amazing vocalist.
Yeah.
Amazing vocalist. This song was called Smile.
Sometimes, but now I find that you keep me smiling every day. You keep me smiling. Hey, come one day. Nothing but blue sky. No cloudy days. You keep me smiling. Hey, come one day. When I wake, sometimes I cry. It's hard to see. I wonder why, but with you, it's easy. You make me smile, cheek to cheek. When I wake, sometimes I cry. It's hard to see. I wonder why, but with you, it's easy. You make me smile, cheek to cheek. When I wake, sometimes I cry. It's hard to see. I wonder why, but with you, it's easy. You make me smile, cheek to cheek. When I wake, sometimes I cry. It's hard to see. I wonder why, but with you, it's easy. You make me smile, cheek to cheek. Wedding plans, a baby's hands, a loving touch, things I love so much. Graduating, appreciating, all it brings happiness, but there is no contest. 'Cause you keep me smiling every day. You keep me smiling. Hey, come one day.
So this song was one of the songs that we were blessed to have an outside the choir feature on.
Yeah.
You all know his voice. You all know his name. He was the worship leader in town at a church called Burning Bush for many years there in Ypsilanti. And
But even before then.
well, yeah, I mean, before then he was with the world famous Commission.
Yeah.
Marcus Cole. Marcus Cole became a brother to me. I was blessed to travel the road and be his road manager for many years. So when I asked him if he would, be a feature on this song, he readily agreed. And this song was such an amazing song, an important song for us because one of our brothers, who actually played for the choir
Yes.
several times.
Yes. Drew Parker. Drew Parker.
Who passed away in a tragic car accident at the young age. I mean, he was,
Mid-20s.
I don't even think Drew was 25 years
Yeah.
old. Tragic car accident. And at Drew's funeral at New St. Paul, Church of God in Christ, the late Bishop P.A. Brooks, founding pastor, he was pastoring the church. And P.A. Brooks got up, and I mean, everybody was there. You talk about the now presiding Bishop J. Drew Sheard, who was, I think, his godfather, who was Drew's godfather, named after him. Bishop Marvin L. Winans. I mean, everyone was there. Bishop Brooks gets up and starts to sing this song.
But for your grace, I not be saved.
Yeah.
But for your grace, I go my way. I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to me, Lord, for your amazing grace.
That was Bishop Brooks.
I never will forget when I heard that melody. I'm standing up.
We're sitting next to each other.
Standing next to each other.
And we're like, oh my God.
What is this?
Where did the song come from? And I mean, I'm searching. I think it was Napster at the time. I'm looking all over, LimeWire or something. I'm looking all over for this song. I'm putting in words, what even the name of the song. Finally found the song. And I mean, we just said we had to do it.
And we weren't the only ones looking for it.
Oh, no,
Bishop Marvin L. Winans.
Bishop Wine was looking for the song because I mean it was just such a captivating song, beautiful melody, beautiful words, the meaning of it. I mean it was just, and so when we found it was like we have to do it. I think we wanted to get Bishop Winans to actually feature on the song.
Yeah.
But we had to save him for Deshaun's brother, I guess. But Marcus came and recorded the lead on this song, and you guys got to just listen to this. But for your grace, Marcus Cole, Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
But for your grace, I not be saved. But for your grace, I go my way. I'm forever grateful every morning, Lord. Yeah, I knew every morning, waiting for me, Lord. Yeah, I knew every morning. I didn't do nothing to deserve it, Lord, but they're right there waiting for me, oh, every morning, oh, and I rise to give you praise. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to me, Lord. It's your amazing grace. So I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to Lord, for your amazing grace. And I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to me, Lord. Yeah, I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to me, Lord. Yeah, great is thy faithfulness to me and mine all of the days of my life, oh Lord. I'm forever grateful that you have been so faithful, Lord, to me, Lord. And I'm forever grateful that you've been so faithful to me, Lord, for your amazing grace. I'm forever.
Just, I remember every time we would rehearse that, and the choir just embodied the lyrics of that. And many people going through many different situations, but the presence of God would always show itself to be real, and it never was a calm moment after that song was sung, because people were internalizing through the song, and worship just went to another level during those rehearsals.
If it had not been for the grace of God.
Yeah.
And Marcus, good night.
Yeah. He's the difference maker. He's the difference maker. You know, when you talk about visions for a song, obviously we wanted to kind of break the monotony of what we were doing, and we decided to give it just a touch of country, touch of orchestration, touch of,
And it was our first song that was, quote unquote,
that was CCM.
Worship.
Yeah, absolutely.
CCM.
For sure.
And, I think that people were waiting for something like that because we always came with the hype, always came with the, high praise gospel stuff. And so because at that time, of course, the choir was still going on, but there was this ushering in of praise and worship into our churches and our spaces, and wanting to create space for that. And we did in such a powerful way with that song.
And then going into the arrangement of They Are New, that was an ode to Bishop Brooks. Bishop Brooks, who
because we would always hear that,
at at least twice a year at every meeting, he would sing that song or what have you. And so
arrangement by Rudolph
Stansfield. Yeah, absolutely. I can't get away from it.
You can't get away from it. He's all in you.
Absolutely.
He's all over me, keeping me alive. Yeah. No. Shout out to Rudolph Stanfield.
Absolutely.
Huh?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. This isn't about that, but I mean, he affected so much of what we were doing then and doing now.
Absolutely.
Musically. So kudos to Marcus Cohen. Even the background vocals, I'm hearing the voices, man. I mean, see, I told Crystal Glover
at the time, yeah.
Now Brown, Janae Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, Tia. Oh, definitely. Tia was right there front and center. Tenors Jamal.
John Johnson.
John. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. Another era of staples.
Another era of staples. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me say this here. I know, and I take responsibility for it. I know there are a lot of people who may not be even thinking about coming to the reunion, because you may think, oh, it's kind of like the 70s era or the 80s era or early 90s, and you really don't feel like, I encourage you just to come and just be a part, I told Staffy, I just want to be a tenor. I don't need the flag. I don't need to do all of that. I don't need to. I just want to come and just be a part of this powerful ministry that helped change and shape my life.
Yes.
And even if we don't sing songs from your era, you may not even know the songs. They're going to be rehearsal on Thursday.
Yeah. The banquet
on Friday, and then the concert at Pease on Saturday. Even if you don't know the songs, get up there and say, just mild watermelon. it works sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes it does. But just come and be a part of what's happening. Yeah, man, just so many great memories.
Absolutely.
So many great people that I will never forget. This is another person that I will never forget. Like, there are people that you will always remember.
Yeah.
But then there are people that you will never forget. Gloria Redmond is one of those people that, again, the people of the choir.
Yeah.
These gifts that came along that were just groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And so we took this song, written by our oldest brother, Damon Goff.
Yes.
Who also substituted a time or two as a musician with the choir. He wrote this song several years back at that time, released it on another artist on the Duran Record label.
Esther Smith.
Evangelist Esther Smith.
Absolutely.
After that Get All the Way Live project had kind of lived its life, we decided to revisit it.
Yes.
And you reimagined what Grace could sound like for Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. Yeah. Talk about that process.
Well, I've always loved the song that was released and cut back in 96 or 95, 96. So you talk about...
Written way before then.
Written way before then. Damon was always writing songs, even while he was on the organ, just kind of coming up with ideas. And so I felt like it was another level of growth for it to actually happen, and the choir was ready to meet that challenge, because melodically in the music it started really kind of going to another level.
We got to just let them hear it, because they're not going to really understand it.
Yeah,
so we can talk about it afterwards, but you got to hear this.
For sure.
Grace, written by Damon Goff, featuring Gloria Redmond, Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. Boy, I tell you, I mean, just, when the conviction of the word of God, for it is by grace that we are saved through faith, meets an amazing melodic moment. If it had not been, I mean, because again, that part wasn't a part of the original song. What made you like kind of want to just ride that out?
Yeah, it was, and it's so funny. It was the moment of understanding what Dad had been passionate about all these years, coming up in the ranks of the church gospel, but understanding how secular had quality. So it was his understanding of the impact of Motown, which you have a Motown backbeat that's actually happening. You had, that backbeat, but then the melodic melody was Disney. It was just that whole thing of the imagination and wanting to add that factor. And I never will forget when I first did it, and we sent it to Damon. He says, "I don't like it." I said, Damon, you just got to trust me. He says, I trust you, but I'm just saying, first rip, I don't like it, but hey, do what you do. But to your point, just being able to have a message like that and something memorable, it always comes from the melody anyway. So. That was great. That was great. Gloria, it was our Whitney Houston.
Yes.
She was our Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
And when we were kind of going back and forth on
different
ad-lib ideas.
When
right?
we talk about eras, again, Judy Thurman has always been, the EMGC songbird.
Yeah.
And then Sherry. She was another iconic voice.
Yes.
In the ranks of EMGC. And of course, Sherry is all around. She's amazing. I feel like God gave us Gloria to kind of be that for us in our era.
Absolutely, because when she came in, we were just doing Trust and Obey, Rudolph Stansfield.
Oh yeah.
And
Harris Memorial.
Right? And so every time we would do that song, she would just wreck it. I was like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
what's really going on?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Trust and Obey. When you walk with the Lord in the light. I mean, just Rudy did such a great job with that song, and we would do that, and it would just. I'm getting emotional because I'm feeling like, man, okay, maybe we should have. I should have said, okay, let's do a few songs, because that was a song that
became an Eastern staple. For sure.
There's no other way to be happy.
Yeah. For sure. I, once again, going back to your point of this entire podcast, where would we be without God? But then where would we be without the people?
The people.
Like the people actually made what it is that what we were doing and continue to do that much more sweeter experience.
I pray that my counterparts, of course, the family of our late great founder, Chucky, Ronald Alexander, Marvin Miller, Staffy, myself, and even others that came after me. I pray that they don't get offended by my emphasis of this. But I mean, when I think about it, the choir would not be what it is, or what it was and what it is, if it were not for the people.
Absolutely.
God blessed us with some amazing gifts. I say it all the time. When we give gifts to people, we give them things. But when God gives gifts to people, he gives us people.
Yeah.
And I mean the people, every alto, every soprano, every tenor, they were gifts to that ministry. Gifts to us as leaders.
Absolutely.
To be able to continue to perpetuate the gospel of Jesus Christ through song even that much further. And my hat goes off to the people that came through. Again, I'm older now. I may not remember every name, but give me my camera. How important you are and were to the ministry, and that lives, thousands of people's lives were changed because of the commitment that you made to be a part of this great aggregation, and I'm so grateful, so grateful.
Yeah.
What's the next song here? Oh,
Oh,
another one written by
Marlon McKinney,
and
produced by Valdez Brantley.
come on now,
I had to bring him on. And this is
Joy
great.
When I Think About It.
Absolutely.
Light in the darkness, water when I'm thirsty, food when I'm hungry, friend when I'm lonely, lawyer in the courtroom, doctor in the sick room. Sometimes a magnitude, he's my everything. I get joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Friend to the friendless, brother to the brotherless, daddy to the fatherless, and mommy to the motherless. Comfort when you feel grief, calmness when you need relief. Stay mine when you need peace. He's your everything. I get joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him. Joy when I think about him, about him, about him.
I just we had a system going on.
Oh my
It was a system, and the system was when there was creativity going on in the A room, there was a writing session possibly going on in the video B room, but then you would have Valdez would come by just to check on things to see how everybody's doing and see what we're working on. And then he would ask, "Hey, yo," he's like, let me work on stuff for the choir." I said, "Absolutely, let's go." And he would go back to his house that was right a couple blocks down.
Yeah.
And Marlon would come in and say, "Yo, Val working on it." And so Val would call us while we're actually working. He says, "No, I got something." And he would play it over the phone. And Marlon was like, "Yo, I got something too," when I just heard that track. And so he would go over to Val's house, and it was just these synergies that was actually constantly at play. it was a beautiful moment in time for us. Once again, to be able to impact and affect even at that time, we were still traveling, our own schedule and on Dorinda's schedule. So it was about, at this point in time, really making sure that we captured the moment at the right time when the choir was in town and we would be prepared for it. A lot of times I would be at the studio or be at home or up at Ypsilanti and just working. And it was just a great movement that we didn't even know we were actually even in. We were just passionate about what it is that we love to do.
I had to pull up the computer because I just had to just look at some old pictures that I have on my Facebook. And I'm just looking at Renelle, Tia, Sasha. Oh, is that Stuckey? Yolanda Stuckey.
Yeah.
Cherie Allen.
You can't mention Stuckey without.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Anthony Bailey, who's actually a weather forecaster out in California.
Really?
Yeah, on a major television network.
Wow.
Just, oh my goodness. It's too much to even, Kevin Sanders, LaDonna North. Who else is that over there? Oh, that's Janika, yeah. Chris Kyles.
Chris Kyles, wow.
Man, oh man. Yeah. Carol Cooper. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just so many people.
Yeah.
I caught her, yeah. Next song, because that was a great one. This one was also very special. Janae Williams was another just amazing gift.
Yeah.
I remember when she first came because Pierre Mayo.
Yes.
Pierre, this is another one who told us, hey, I got somebody that's coming.
Look out for her.
Look out for
Absolutely.
her. Pierre was her youth pastor at Christian Tabernacle. And Janae was from there, came to Eastern. And this is just a moment in time when, there was a new crop of it's almost like, your favorite shows, but when the people age out, but they bring in a whole other set like Saved by the Bell.
It was new seasons.
It was a new season. It was a new season of people that were coming, and she was a part of that new crop, new season.
Yeah.
Who just had an incredible sound. It was like, when Gloria left, then Janae came,
Yes.
but she was just fresher, younger, had just, had this Beyonce, flair about her. It was just amazing, but could just flat out sing.
Absolutely.
And we did this song, Praise the Lord. You wrote this song.
Yeah.
You wrote this song.
Yeah, it was an ode to Hooray for Hollywood.
Hooray! Another Disney-esque inspirational.
Absolutely.
Check this out, Praise the Lord with Me, featuring Janae Williams with the Eastern Michigan. Well, Janae Williams, what's her? That's not her name.
Fox now.
Yeah, Janae
Fox.
Janae Fox with the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
Praise the Lord with me, everybody say. 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 And we giving it up, we get wild, and we never gonna stop. We lift high, and we giving him praise, 'cause he has been so good to me. And we giving it up, we get wild, and we never gonna stop. And we giving him praise, 'cause he has been so good to me. Praise the Lord with me, everybody say. 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 When we giving it up, and we never gonna stop. When we giving him praise, 'cause he has been so good to me. When we giving it up, we get wild, and we never gonna stop. When we giving him praise, 'cause he has been so good to me. And we get live, and we get wild, and we giving him praise, 'cause he has been so good to me. And we never gonna stop. And we giving him praise, cause he has been so good. It makes me say, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. All my people over there say, if you really love my Lord, say, lift your hands and your voice and say, see, yeah, yeah. All my people over there say, if you really love my Lord, say, lift your hands and your voice and say, see, yeah, yeah. All my people over there say, really love my Lord, say, lift your hands and voice and say, see, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come and sing it with me. All my people over there say, out of darkness into day, lift your hands and your voice and say, see, yeah, yeah, see, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, praise the Lord with me, everybody say. 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 Why you still sitting there? Get up on your feet and praise Him. If He brought you to it, He'll bring you through it. He did it for her, and He'll do it for us. He did it for us, He'll do it for them. Say yeah, oh say yeah, say yeah, say
That was actually her first time recording.
That was her
too.
first time recording.
Very first time recording.
Yeah.
And she had some Lauryn Hill on Sister Act moments
Yeah,
within
yeah.
that record. That
Oh,
was
my
just
goodness.
amazing. I tell you, this is some great people, man. Great
The
talents.
people, man. I mean, and we would kill that song live.
Oh, yeah.
See, some of the stuff we actually did, but we just never released the album.
Yeah, yeah,
Which was just amazing.
yeah.
This song, Steve brought this song to us.
Yes, I remember this.
I wanted him to lead this song, but again, I felt like God Just What I Want was better suited for him than it was for me because of that quartet vibe that he could pull off so well.
But before we recorded this song, we were actually doing it live.
We did it live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time we would do it,
It would just mess it would you know how they say tear the club up? It would tear the church up.
yeah.
Written by Rodney Hubbard in
Yes.
Cleveland. I remember when Steve brought this to us, I just said, oh my God, this song is just amazing. Like, we have to do it.
Yeah, just we put an arrangement to it. I remember when we did it. It was at Bishop Brandon Porter's church down in.
When we did it there,
I'll never forgot that.
we probably would still be in Tennessee right now. Like, seriously, like, there was another one of those stuck in time moments. We did it his first service, then he took us over to his second location and was like, y'all got to do it here again. And then he wanted a piece of it. The song is called Whatever Happens. Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir featuring yours truly.
All things work together for the good of them that love him. All things work together for the good of them that love him. So I do. Love you. So I don't worry about the outcome. I won't worry about formed against me shall be able to prosper. Just let it happen, I will be alright, alright. Whatever happens, let it happen, oh my. Whoa, whoa, alright. Now it may not be good right now, no. The Bible says many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord will deliver them out of them all. And I'm convinced of the fact that it's working for my good. Whoa. Job said, though they slay me, yet will I trust him, yet will I trust him, and I know, said it may not be good, it may not be good, you see it's not my will, oh no, but it's according to your purpose, yes it is. And I know that it's working for my good. Oh, the Lord has always made a way, placed our feet on a rock to stay. God, help us understand your plans, we pray. Your will be done, not as we say. Working for my good, oh my. Whatever happens, just let it happen. I'll be alright. Just let it happen. I'll be alright, alright. Alright, yes I will. Minister to yourself and say that it's gonna be. Every situation's got to be. Every circumstance. And it will be. Oh, yes it will.
You know, I think that song represents, because you're leading and me coming up with the arrangements and producing, we can kind of speak to this because we had people that we looked up to from a musical standpoint.
No doubt.
From, you talk about the Rudolph Stansfield, the Thomas Whitfields, and even from the singing standpoint, Marvin L. Winans, right?
The GOAT.
So literally, from all of those names, and of course we can go on just a whole plethora of list of people that we've drawn influence from.
Yeah.
But I think the number one thing that we learned just by being around our dad and him instilling into us, understanding moments.
Absolutely.
I think and when you talk about music, if we've had degrees and masters and doctorates in music, it would literally that would be the number one thing, understanding the moments of where to be able to take songs.
Yeah.
And so for me, I remember being in the studio with you, and we were actually coming up with different ad-lib ideas or what have you, and just really being able to, in order for the song to be ministered in an effective way, just taking advantage of those moments. And the choir did a great job in laying the foundation with a lot of the choir parts or what have you, but I thought you understood the assignment of understanding the moment for sure.
Well, thank you. But, the thing that I would highlight on that is, you know, a lot of times when people get songs, even if it's a cover, you know, they do such a disservice by removing the integrity of the song.
Absolutely.
Stripping it down to make it more this or to make it more that. Sometimes you just gotta you know, understand the original intent of the song and just let it be in that in terms of your interpretation for it. But I mean, you know, the choir had lived with that song for so long live, singing it all over. When we finally got into actually doing it, it was natural because we understood what the song was calling for.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just the line in the song, it may not feel good while it's working, but it's working for my good.
Playing on one word that serves as a counterpoint, good, while it's working, but working for the good. You know, it's just that's amazing. Shout out to Rodney Hubbard.
I'm telling you, man, just another great musician, songwriter. And then we had this song, which
Again,
written by Marlon
Marlon
McKinney. Another rearrangement of an old congregational song.
absolutely.
That he just breathed fresh life into. I'm a Soldier, written by Marlon McKinney, Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
I'm a soldier getting ready for war. Gonna put on my old armor.
people don't have to like you. And when I was writing the music for this entire project, and remind you, we ended up losing this project. We lost it on a hard drive, and we had to redo the entire thing with vocals and after every time Marlon would call, he'd say, "Hey, D, what you doing?" I'm saying, "I'm up here working." He says, "Okay, I'm gonna stop on through." And he would just hear. And he said, "D, this is amazing. Like, how you go from Teddy Riley to Jackson 5 mode, then Michael Jackson, kind of thing, what have you, on the music vamp or whatever." It was very mysterious, and for him to actually hear God and just love what we were doing, you don't come across those people too often.
And that's what everybody needs.
Yeah.
They need somebody that's going to believe in them, love them, to just be there to support, give encouragement.
And that's what he was. That's what he
was.
did. Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
he did, time and time again. Whew. We had never did an interlude before.
Yeah.
I remember that was like a little bit of Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
The WJOB, what it was at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night when they would transition from Bushman Show into the late night stuff. It would be like Quiet Storm, When it's late at night and it's time to unwind. It had all that thunderstorm music.
Storm, WJOB. Right.
Yeah. There's a very special place you can find. It's the Quiet Storm. WJLB is the Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
WJLB, turn around and WJLB.
Yeah.
Man.
No, that was influences. Stevie Wonder. You talk about DeBarge, that whole mode, and not being afraid to go there, and actually write a worship song or just a simple thought, so to speak. That's why we, went that route as far as creating the interlude.
Another one by Marlon.
Yes, absolutely. You are.
I was talking about Jesus.
No, I wrote that.
You wrote Jesus.
Yeah, I wrote
right.
it.
That's right. Giving your credit away.
That's all good. I mean, I actually wrote all the songs. But,
Well, the music, lyrical content. Yeah. But yeah, Marlon did write "You Are." So this one, Jessica Clements.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing gift to the body of Christ. She now serves in Chicago with Pastor Hannah. But I remember when Jessica came to us. Jessica came to us because, again, the new regime, Rashard Williams.
Yes. He was working with her.
He was working with her.
His artist at the time.
And, yep, she was his artist. And came on board. Rashard was not playing with the choir. He was like, I got somebody, Rashard at the time.
Yeah.
He's real. He's married to Shayna Wilson Williams now, and he's very, but that back then Rashard was very mild and unspoken, right?
Yeah.
He was like, I got somebody, And when Jessica came in,
Game changer. As a matter of fact, Rashard felt like her first couple of takes. I mean, we were blown away, but he felt like he got up to the console. All right, Jay, you holding back? Come on. It was like, man, come on, stop holding back, man, come on. And the take we got after he said to come on.
Yeah, y'all about to hear it. You Are, written by Marlon McKinney, featuring Jessica Clements with the Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir. Again, never released project, University of Gospel. Y'all let us know in the comments if you feel like we should go ahead and release it so that the world can hear this music. You Are. My only complaint about that song is it wasn't long enough. Because at that moment, I could have used probably 2 more minutes of Jessica, 3, 5. Who am I getting? 10. Man, just
I've put myself back in that control room and seeing her on the other side in the microphone booth, and I just remember it just was once again understanding the moment. And for those of you, we'll release this news. Many people have thought. Matter of fact, there have been gigs that have come in for the likes of Andrew Monroe, who was our stage harmonica player for a lot of our shows, and literally people were trying to book him. Dorinda wanted to book him on albums for her album, and no one knew that I was the one that actually was playing the harmonica on the keyboard, and he was acting like he was playing it. But of course, that was an ode to, from that time, of course, making sure that because the harmonica became a staple for Eastern Michigan
it
Gospel
did.
Choir.
I mean, everybody was like, where's the white boy with that harmonica?
And it was so soulful. But I mean, just that whole entire thing. You talk about if gospel and R&B was to come together and the choir was to do that would be it. That would be an answer to it. So part of it, at least, for sure.
We've come down to the very last song.
Oh wow. Yeah. Besides the one we haven't played yet.
Besides the one we haven't played.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to.
No worries.
Jonathan Dunn.
Jonathan Dunn. Pastor Jonathan.
Pastor Jonathan
He wasn't
Dunn.
a pastor.
He wasn't a
at
pastor
this
then.
time, for sure.
Shout out to Jana for bringing
making the
him
play
in our lives.
Yeah.
My life has been better because of Jonathan Dunn.
For obvious reasons
For
when
obvious
we turn this
reasons,
record on.
but let's talk about this record. I remember hearing this song. It was a VHS cassette, VHS tape, a videotape of some conference. I think it was Bishop Clarence McClendon's conference, Fire Conference. Marvin Winans was preaching. Dorinda Clark Cole was it was like a Detroit night. And William Murphy was the praise and worship leader for the conference.
Man, that's crazy.
William Murphy did this song during praise and worship called King of Kings. And I remember I was in my apartment, in our apartment up at Eastern, and I was just arrested in our living room. I put this tape in, and I'm just watching tape, letting it go through, and William Murphy began singing this song, and I was just arrested in the presence of God. And I remember running into William. It was somewhere we were going with Dorinda. I said, William, King of Kings. Did you write that song? He was like, no, I didn't write it. I was like, who wrote it? Byron Cage. Byron Cage wrote the song. I found Byron I think we were at the AIM convention with Dorinda, with the choir. See Byron? I said, Byron, because he used to be over at Oakland University's gospel choir, OU gospel choir, back in the day, history. So I said, man, listen, East Michigan Gospel Choir, I heard your song, William Murphy did it at this, I was like, I want to do this song. He says, never been released. I said, can we do it? And he said yes. So Byron Cage wrote this song, King of Kings. Jonathan Dunn wrote, I remember he came to a choir rehearsal, and we went to the studio after the choir rehearsal.
Yeah.
Or maybe we went to Denny's and then to the studio.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was already at the studio.
Shout out to Denny's over there on Washtenaw, who fed us many a nights. No, Carpenter Road.
Yeah.
Anyway. I still have somewhere the CD that has all the takes. Because the takes that we did not use, they very well could have been used.
Honor and the privilege just to be.
I mean, he could have been done in one take.
Yeah, for sure.
If it wasn't for one change in the vamp that kind of caught him off guard that you did musically.
And he started jumping up and down like,
Yeah.
take it back, take it back, take it back. Oh,
King
my
of
goodness.
Kings, written by Byron Cage, featuring Jonathan Dunn, Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
King of Kings, Lord of Lords, your name be praised, be worshipped and adored. You are the Holy One of Israel. You rule and reign with all power in your hands. Ooh.
Lord of Lords, your name be praised, be worshipped and adored. You are the Holy One.
Holy One of
And you rule and reign with power in your hand. King of kings,
and the Lord of Lords,
Lord of lords,
and your name be praised.
name be praised,
Be worshipped and You're the majestic one, and you sit upon the throne. You're God and you're God, and you're God alone. Yes, you are. Your name be praised. Hey, worshipped and adored. High and lifted up, and your train fills the temple. We're in all of your glory, your majesty and your splendor. Your name be praised. You are the Holy One of Israel. You rule and you reign. They ask the question, who is the King of glory? The Lord God strong and mighty, and he's mighty in battle. Holy One of Israel. Holy One of Israel. Majestic, we honor you. You're majestic. We honor you forever. And you sit upon the throne. And your train fills the temple.
If we were not on this podcast, I would immediately press rewind.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because it's one thing to be a vocalist. It's another thing to be a vocalist that's been indulged in musicianship.
Yeah.
And that's what you can appreciate when you listen to a gift like Pastor Jonathan Dunn. It's just I'm speechless, man. I'm speechless.
Well, there you have it, folks. Special Duran Records podcast in honor of
The 50th anniversary of Eastern Michigan Gospel Choir.
taking place next weekend.
Yes.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday is the rehearsal. Friday is the banquet, and Saturday is the concert at Pease Auditorium. If you have not registered, please register. Come, plan to be a part. just to be in the room in the midst of other great people like yourself who were a part of 50 years of great ministry on the campus and around the world.
I'm thankful. I'm grateful to
Beyond
just
words.
even have played a small part in such a mega moment that expanded over 50 years.
See ya.